Well, dawn of the Dark Ages. That was then, and this is then. Let's talk about it. What were the Dark Ages? The Dark Ages, the period after the fall of the Western Roman Empire, are characterized by a decline in culture and science. There was an economic decline, and there was little written documentation from the period. Sound like any time we know? The term employs traditional light versus dark kind of imagery to contrast the supposed darkness of ignorance and error with earlier and later periods of light, which were knowledge and understanding. Now, there were some, important things that happened during the Dark Ages. It wasn't all dark, but that's the characterization. Knowledge. Let's talk about that. Knowledge is the understanding, awareness, or familiarity gained through experience, education, or learning. It's facts, information, and the skills acquired over time. It's not just a bunch of documents. It's not just a bunch of information in a pile. It's certainly not just a whole bunch of ones and zeros on a computer or on the internet. That's not knowledge. It's the practical application and the acquiring. So we'll look at it from a different perspective, a different image of it. We've got data. We can process all that data, and that'll give us information. Now that's the know what. What do we know? Then we have to think about it. Right? All this data and information, that's just all categorized under information management. We collect things, we have to do some processing, we can share it, we store it, we display it, but that's it. Now we have to think about it. And that's where we create, we organize, we apply, we transfer, we interconnect the dots, and we give it some thought. That's the know-how. That's our knowledge. And then when we put judgment and different items on top of that to manage all of that knowledge, that's the know why. That's when we get up into wisdom. That's like the old saying, knowing what to say is intelligence or knowledge, and knowing when to say it is wisdom. And that's a shared understanding once we get up to those points. So at the start, I said, that was then and this is then, in reference to the Dark Ages. So if you get my drift, is I think we're entering a new Dark Age. So before the Dark Ages, there was great civilizations, great stores of knowledge. Individuals were more connected to the land, more shared knowledge, culture, and community. And there was a lot deeper connections, both between individuals and in actually having knowledge. Now, people might not have been, book smart or trained academically, but they passed on the knowledge, the information, and they put it to practical use in their lives. So they really did have that knowledge. There was more storytelling. It could have been oral traditions and passing along in stories and folklore, but it was still passing that along. And then it was the application and the use of it that actually, the understanding of that, putting it to use in your life that makes it knowledge. Now we're in the then. That's the Dark Ages. So literacy went into decline. There was less publications, less documentation, less learning. That picture up there is the burning of the great library of Alexandria. Civilization collapsed, but you'll see it is cyclical. And if we look back through the timelines, we can see the rise and fall of civilizations and great empires. So this happens. It's not, that just happened once. That's why I think it's coming up again. Now, well, we have fewer written, like actual hard copy documents. Everything is electronic or digital. Lots of fake news. Lots of artificial intelligence corrupting information, making up its own stuff. And then other AI is going through the internet, picking up on these false things that are being created, and then using that as fact and as basis to create more, which is just leads that snowball of misunderstanding. It's like when you take a copy and you make a photocopy of it. And then instead of copying the original, you make a copy of the copy. So it gets more and more distorted. Or the game of telephone, the one where everybody sits in a circle and you turn to your left or your right and you say a sentence to that person. And then they have to turn to the next person in line and repeat the sentence as what they think they heard. And by the time it gets all the way around back to the originator of the sentence, quite often the sentence is nothing at all like the original. And that's what's happening with everything on the internet. People can post whatever they want. Things aren't fact checked. You're seeing it in business. You're seeing it on the internet. There's no oversight. There's no challenge. There's no confirmation. There's no fact checking. And it's just going to get bad to worse. People will start to cite things, and then they'll start using that as the basis, or, even worse, as we're seeing, that artificial intelligence will do it. And all of the deep fakes. We can't even trust what we're seeing on TV, hearing on the news. Literacy, seemingly in decline. Very short attention spans. As I like to say, the TikTok brain. Right? If it's more than just a couple of seconds, people can't be bothered to watch it. They don't have the attention for it. It's okay to spell things wrong. Everyone wants the new catchy name, and we'll just change the spelling on it. Now it's a different name. Or just, rely on spell check or grammar check. Why learn things when the computer will do it for you? Well, those of you that get frustrated with it, as I often do, is you'll know that it sometimes puts in things that you have no intention of saying or that you did not mean, because it thinks that's what it should be, but it is wrong. I've seen it many times so far, and it will get better, I suppose, but from what I've seen of people using artificial intelligence to create their own slides or the material, it can give you a general starting point or a framework, but you have to, proofread it, validate it. It's very, very often wrong, and sometimes very, very wrong. Also, now there's, much more emphasis on what is your truth. That matters more. It seems from what you hear in society, and to a lot of people, maybe they're just the vocal ones, I don't know. That seems to matter more than the truth. I think if there are some fundamental truths, people say, well, it doesn't matter. You speak your truth. What's your truth? What's my truth? Well, there are things that are probably more true, or, base things on facts, not opinion. That's another thing. Well, what's your opinion? Oh, in my opinion, you can't tell me I'm wrong. That's my opinion. Yeah, that you could be wrong. You can still have your opinion, but we're putting emphasis on the wrong things. You watch a lot of videos and things like that. It's just the most mind-numbingly stupid and ridiculous things that you could think of. And that is what's getting all of the attention. It's very troubling. There is a little bit of hope, though. We have to look at fostering knowledge, sharing those stories, promoting community, getting back to nature, having those urban gardens, growing your own food, getting some skills, learning some things, right? Preparing, all those good things that our ancestors, some not as long ago as others, used to do. We can get back to that. So I think that's something that will be, on the horizon here. We're putting so much information. People, they don't have books anymore. They don't have. You get a new product, you don't save the manual, if it even comes with one. And if you had to, I can just look it up on the internet if I ever have to fix something. Yeah, not if it's down, you can't. And, get the book, keep the book, but more importantly, read it and then put it into practice so you can learn that, so you can make it knowledge. Pros and cons. It is awesome to have all of this access to so much information. You can look things up, but you have to be able to analyze it and assess it, make your own determination. You can't just take it at face value, really, no matter who it's from. First of all, you don't know, it might not even be them. Your trusted source might not be that actual source anymore. But just having access to the data is one thing. Then you have to actually process that into information, as we saw in our graphic. And then you have to actually think about that to start to turn it into knowledge, and you have to put it into practice. Knowledge requires that understanding and a practical application. Even if it's you teaching and sharing that with others, that's a practical application that then they might be able to put it into practice. We rely more and more on artificial intelligence and models. And as they say, all models are wrong. Some of them are useful, but they're all wrong. That all of this stuff is only as good as what was put into it. The garbage in, garbage out, right? We have to get back to community, reestablish our connection with our culture, and share some of that learned understanding. Just some final thoughts. Just look around. Look around your room that you're in right now, your car, wherever you are. Do you have any actual books? Have you read them? Have you applied what you read? Have you talked to a real person about ideas and thoughts? And even now, you could go onto a chat group or a forum, but again, at the rate things are going, you don't even know if you're talking to a real person. Have you actually connected with someone? What do you think our trajectory is going to be? Are we going to go back to all of our infrastructure failing? The grid goes down, the internet is lost for whatever reason, all of that knowledge, which it wasn't, all of that information, data and information, gone. Now, would you have any knowledge that you've gained through study or through watching or learning that you have applied or that you could teach someone else what to do? A practical application of it. I like the middle picture here, because it's, they always show the reverse one of the starting off and evolving into, man, I don't know if that's entirely really good evolution, if that's what they're going for, but now we're going backwards. We'll start to go back more to our traditional roots, I think, growing more of our own food, getting things locally, having to be skilled again, having to know things, to actually acquire knowledge. And again, it might not be through just going to school. It can be talking to our elders and learning from them. What do you think the trajectory is going to be? It is cyclical, so we will see it again. You can look back through history, and everyone says, oh, it's the end of the world. The caveat is, as we know it. That might not be a bad thing sometimes with what we see in the world. So have a think about it. And, maybe in the New Year's, one of your resolutions could be pick up a new skill, actually get some knowledge, get a book, read it, and apply what you've read. Actually do something with it. Start collecting some books that you think you might need if, the internet ever went down. All right. As I say, it's kind of a gloomy topic, but the dawn of the dark ages, I think we're going to see more of that soon. Thanks very much for listening. Share, like, and subscribe.